Okay, Kaylee, thanks so much for helping get this set up. And I just want to welcome everyone to this discussion of leadership through a crisis. We are certainly facing one now. I think that's very clear. Might not have been clear 3 or 4 weeks ago, but certainly it is now. I just want to talk through a couple of goals. I will probably go through about 25 minutes or so of conversation around that and sharing information, and then look forward to getting your questions at the end. First off, goal number one, I'm going to share some of my perspectives on the situation that we face and how leaders can make the best of it, and focus on guiding their teams through this challenge. Secondly, I want to share some insights, and that'll be sort of throughout the presentation around coaching and consulting clients that I have. There are certainly some themes in terms of how people are processing through this and what we're learning from that. And so I want to share that. And then third, I hope to give you all some actionable items, some sort of a menu of things that you can consider. Maybe some of them you're already doing, but hopefully there'll be a handful of things that you can consider and employ in your leadership through this challenging time. Okay, so let's jump right in. First, just really wanted to share, the name of my company is The Leader's Evolution, and you see my mission there: to build and develop successful people, great leaders, and high-performing teams. That's essentially my why, and the reason as to why I do that, why that's my area of focus, because I truly feel that leadership makes the difference. It makes all the difference. Companies that have the strongest leaders create the most value in the world. Teams that have great leaders come up with the most amazing solutions to problems and challenges. Families that have great leaders create amazing legacies through what they leave. And I truly believe the reason I named my company The Leader's Evolution is I believe leadership is absolutely an evolution that occurs over time. And so I focus on working with small, medium, and large-sized companies, colleges and universities, nonprofits, really anywhere teams are coming together to try to solve big problems, to advance where leadership is occurring. That's where I focus and where I engage. And certainly that evolution of leadership needs to occur more rapidly in times of crisis. And that's really what we're going to talk about right now. So let's just jump right into that. First thing that I wanted to introduce was this quote by retired General Stanley McChrystal. I think the most effective leaders have to understand who they are leading in the context in which they're leading them, which really comes down to empathy. There's 3 reasons that I picked this slide to be my intro. First of all, I was always curious around a retired general focusing on empathy, and he actually opened a leadership talk with this quote. That always makes me think, because you don't necessarily think about generals and empathy. Number 2, I knew this would get Ed Ramirez all jacked up and on the edge of his virtual seat, talking about retired Army generals and quotes like this. And last but not least, and probably most importantly, this quote I believe is spot on as to how we need to think and how we need to act and lead through a crisis. I think it's very, very important to first focus on who we are trying to lead and what state they are in, and then focus on what we need to do to lead through the challenge. And so that's really where my talk is going to go. The first couple minutes is going to be focused on what's going on with our people. And I would encourage you to think about that same thing. Maybe your observations are the same as mine. Maybe they're a little bit different. But most importantly, I want you to think about who you are leading as sort of an aftermath to this conversation. So here's what I'm observing. What are we dealing with here? First of all, the amount of change has been rapid. Every couple of days, things seem to accelerate with the environment that we are faced. Certainly here, many of us, I think, are based in North New Jersey or the Northeast at least. Things are progressing rapidly, and our people are dealing and trying to process that change. There's a tremendous amount of fear, of anxiety that's going across our organizations, across our teams, across our families, waves of anxiety and fear. Many of us are dealing with separation, where normally we would be in groups of people beyond just our homes, beyond just our families. we're separated, physically separated from those that we're trying to team with. Certainly there's a very significant economic threat right now, not just reflected in the stock market or the unemployment reports, but certainly people are fearful about where this is all going over the next couple of months. But I think most importantly, what has become very clear, especially over the last 2 weeks, is a very deep-centered fear around health and safety. I think over the last couple of weeks, for sure, people have started to very much believe my health is at risk. I'm fearful of the safety of my children, my elderly parents, people that I know, my friends. This gets to the core of our survival, in essence, and what we value most, which is to live and to be prosperous. And it's really, really important to acknowledge this right off the bat. Taryn Abrams gave a great webinar a little over a week ago, and I actually have to draw in some of the things that she talked about because I think it's really, really important to understand where our people are, where our families are, where our teams are. When we are challenged with this safety issue, there is a response that our brain goes through, and we can call it the amygdala hijack, the primitive brain hijack. Essentially, that same process that keeps us safe is occurring in our brain. And in essence, the simplistic way to think about it is the fight, flight, or freeze response. Now, with this situation, we're talking about a virus. We're talking about, a small thing that exists in our body. There is nothing to physically stand up against and fight. Flight is absolutely out of the question because, in essence, there's no flying anywhere and there's no even leaving our homes. Most of us are confined to one space, so flight's not an option. And so what is most everyone responding with? They're freezing. They're freezing in their homes. They're surrounded by these magical phone devices, televisions, the laptop that I'm staring into, and they're being bombarded, quite frankly, with predominantly very negative messages, negative images. Now, why is that? Well, this is a stark situation. You see the cases, you see stories about people suffering, you see the numbers that are very alarming. And so people are getting pounded with these negative images. And what that causes is a down spiral of worry, of anxiety. It actually triggers this response in the brain, and people get very, very defensive, very, very narrow-minded. They actually lose the ability to be creative, to ideate, to do the normal decision-making that we would typically go about in most situations. They get very, very much risk avoidance behavior, and they struggle with basic things. And I really started to reflect upon when else have I experienced this? And I had, the ability to lead through a couple of different crises that hit our area. The first was leading through 9/11. And I remember how powerful it was for me to sit down physically with my team a few days after 9/11 and talk to them and look them square in the eye and tell them what we were going to do, how we were going to lead through this, how they were feeling, checking in with them. And the physical act of being able to do that was very, very powerful. I remember after Hurricane Sandy, going around in my neighborhood, checking on neighbors checking on me, trying to find out what we could do to help each other. There's a process of healing that allows us to actually get out of that flight, fight, primitive brain hijack and allows us to feel much more in control and move into this space. This crisis is actually similar in a lot of ways to a couple of the others we've faced in our lives, but it's different in two really important respects. The first is, with those prior things that I mentioned, the significant danger, we felt that it existed for a couple of days, and then I think most of us felt, okay, now it's safe to go outside, now it's safe to re-engage with the team. That significant danger passed relatively quickly, and that's not happening this time. In fact, the danger that exists seems to be accelerating and lengthening, and it's lasted weeks, and potentially it's likely to last months. In addition, there's a great feeling of sort of isolation and separation because we are not able to go physically engage with other people. The normal response that we would go through that starts the healing process, not just for the help that we're providing, but also for ourselves and for our teammates and for our families. It's more challenged. And therefore, what I've been predominantly seeing is a great feeling of isolation, a great feeling of separation amongst people, which is different in this crisis than several others that I've had the opportunity to lead through. So this is the challenge that we face. This is the challenge that our people are struggling with right now. But this is not where the story ends, all right? If you clicked off right now because you had a lunch appointment, that wouldn't be too much of an uplifting webinar, would it? But for our Morris County Chamber leaders, the story is going to end differently. And that's because leadership can actually help guide us through and be the catalyst to opportunity, to being able to both survive and then ultimately thrive through this amazing challenge. Most importantly, we have to understand where our people are first and guide them through the process of healing, the process of building trust again, and then focus on the coming stages, which I will go through in a minute. But I love this quote: "I am not a product of my circumstances, I am a product of my decisions." And so importantly, these are circumstances that we face, no question about it. We didn't bring it on ourselves. These were cards that were dealt to us. However, you all can be an instrument of good in terms of changing how this ends. You will draw your teams closer together. You can lead with resiliency and thereby create resilient teams. And you can actually make all the difference for the people that are looking up to you in your companies, in the teams that you lead, in the families that you lead. And that sounds like a much better ending to our story. Now, the question is, how do we accomplish that? And I'm going to talk about that next. So and if there's anything that you take away from this conversation, this would sort of be a number one, all right? Because of the state that the people that we are trying to lead, the state that they are in, which we just discussed, the two most important things that you can provide as a leader to them right now are trust, and combine that with some level of feeling safe, and hope. Okay, let's start with the trust thing. Most importantly, when people are threatened in this way, we need to show them compassion. We need to show them empathy. We need to care for our employees in a way that's probably well beyond what we would normally think and how we would engage with them. Every single conversation that I've had over the last couple of weeks starts with, whether it's someone I'm coaching, someone in my business team, someone that I'm consulting with, starts with, how are you? How are you doing? Right? Really trying to listen to the answer to that question and meet that person in the moment. Showing that level of vulnerability, showing that level of empathy to those individuals. Ourselves, we need to acknowledge, yeah, there's some things that I'm getting fearful about as well. Being open and vulnerable with our team is really, really a great building block and foundational element of trust. Quite frankly, using some humor around it as well. Telling a story, yeah, I came home the other day, I coughed twice, and my wife shoved a thermometer in my ear and told me I had to sleep out in the shed for the next 3 days. Now, that's not really true, but just engaging in the dialogue and connection with your people around this whole situation is really, really important. So we've got to establish that trust factor first, and then we can start focusing on hope. Being honest and transparent with them in terms of the challenges that you face, for sure, but we need to move away from the gloom and doom discussions. And we need to talk about not what we cannot do, but what we can do. If we can't meet with our clients in person, can we meet with them over a Zoom call? Can we create a webinar series where we can go out and engage with people in a different way? Paint them a picture of what the future can look like beyond today and really get them pointed on the hope of the future. This is critical, critical, critical for all leaders, regardless of where you're leading. Next step, next actionable item. People are craving interaction. They are craving it right now. I stopped at a Dunkin' Donuts the other day. I think I talked to the woman behind the counter for 10 minutes. When's the last time that you did that at a Dunkin' Donuts? I thought, why did I just do that? Because I'm craving the interaction with people. And by the way, she was craving the interaction because I think I was like the only person to stop by all afternoon. With one client that I'm working with, we've instituted a 9 a.m. check-in call. It actually is not a call, it's a video, all right? We use Microsoft Teams, you can use Zoom. There's all types of elements out there to engage and pull your team together. Now, it's not a large team, it's about 10 or 11 people, but we use that mechanism to be able to show connectivity, talk to people about their challenges. Sometimes it becomes a method to just get people talking about what their challenges are and to show empathy and care and concern for that and help them through that. Sometimes we gravitate towards being more proactive and playing a little bit more offense in those calls. But the habit of getting that team together, I think, is critical. You need to look for ways to engage with your team and create meaningful, impactful interactions over this period of time. And you're probably not going to do it in the way that you normally have done it. You're going to have to use technology to do it. You're going to have to engage with them in a different way. Keep those meetings brief, keep them focused. I like 20 to 30 minutes tops. And also focus a lot around clarity and accountability. Because remember, in the state of mind that they're in, they're confused, they lack focus. They actually struggle with making decisions in a lot of respects, especially early on in this process. You need to be very pointed in terms of what direction we want to go, having conversations with them, and creating probably more levels of accountability around getting things done than you're typically used to. Leaders that are going to be successful in this environment, you're going to have to flex your style much more than normal. We typically have dominant leadership styles that we use predominantly. In this situation, we need to flex across a lot of different styles. So in some respects, especially early on in this situation, we may need to be a little bit more directive in terms of what we want people to do, helping people in essence make decisions around what comes next. Coaching, all right? It's actually a leadership style. It's something that I do, but coaching is helping people determine a course of action, helping people make a decision, walking them through those steps. Focusing on things where we can get interaction and collaboration across our team, really, really critical in this situation. And as a leader, we may have stopped doing that as frequently because the engine was running really well around some of those things. You need to assert yourself and insert yourself in some of those processes to make them more interactive, to make them more collaborative. And what I would say as well is go back to the purpose as to why your business exists. Businesses exist to create value. Teams exist to create something or create some value in the world. And that value is probably important to the people that have joined your team. It's something that energizes them. Make sure you go back and reassert what your purpose is as an organization or what the purpose is of your function, because it will energize people. It will give them, quite frankly, a compass to work towards, and very, very important. And then last but not least, this is a great opportunity to try new things, to rapidly test and learn in sort of an agile approach. What is it that you can try to see if it works? And do that quickly and do that rapidly, but the team will actually get stimulated and energized by that. So try different things and be very adaptive in this period of time. The second key thing that I hope you would take away, I pulled this one out and put a star on it. The emotionally intelligent leader is going to be the leader that will be most successful in this environment and in the aftermath of it. Okay, so what is emotional intelligence? Some people know it well. Some people, it's like, I'm not really sure exactly what that is. I put some characteristics of people that are typically seen as being emotionally intelligent. Number one, they tend to have really good self-awareness. They know what they do well, and they stay within those bounds, and they know where they really need to engage other people to help them be successful. They typically are very adept at connecting with others. Lots of different types of people, all different styles. They do a really good job of connecting with others. They tend to ask the right questions. They can sit in a meeting and seem to really understand the situation relatively quickly and probe and ask people around them to get on the right track. They tend to understand different personality types. They know who needs to be the ones who need to control the situation, who feels good about making decisions, and they pivot across that, and they understand what motivates the people around them. People that are emotionally intelligent are going to be extraordinarily successful in this environment. Now, here's the question. If you as a leader acknowledge, wait a minute, Ken, I'm a really good engineer, I'm good at marketing, I'm a gifted person in IT or an accountant, but this emotional intelligence stuff, I'm not sure how good I am in that. What I would say to you here is engage a coach to partner with you in this particular area. You're not expected to be brilliant in everything. And for some, emotional intelligence is a harder thing. We might not have practices as much. We might not be as gifted in that particular area. This is where somebody like me or a coach can really help you through this process to make sure that you are bringing your emotional intelligence to the game, or supporting you in complementary ways to make sure that that's coming across your team. We've had some great presentations over the last 7-8 days around sort of strategy in this environment, marketing in this environment. James Jacoby gave a great one. Rachel Durkin gave a great one over the last couple of days. If you haven't seen them, pull them up on the YouTube at the Chamber site. Importantly, I believe focusing on your customers is a critical part of leadership. And I'm not going to focus on the strategic marketing piece. They've done a wonderful job, but get your people re-engaged on who your customers are and how you can act in this environment to help them, to bring them value. Again, companies exist to serve a purpose. That purpose typically will be very motivating and engaging to your people. Focus them on it. What do your customers need? How can you help them? Create a customer-oriented strategy as part of your leadership strategy, and it will get everyone really energized, really engaged, really motivated. One of the last things I'll focus on in terms of strategies of how engagement is really, really important in this period of time, right? We talked about the challenge that people are feeling, the defensiveness that comes with that. First, we've got to get them to trust again. First, we got to get them to hope again. But then once we get into that, we really need to engage them. And how do you engage them? You ask them questions, all right? Questions that make them think. First, we start out with simple things. Should we go left? Should we go right? Okay, boss, I think we should go left, and here's why. But when we build off of that, you can start asking much more open-ended questions, which really have an infinite number of possibilities. What should we do to connect with our customers as we come through this? Well, there's a million different strategies that we could have. Get them rallying around those types of challenges, ask them questions, and then stand back and listen and let them give you their ideas and let them engage with you. Ask the questions, stand back, and listen. I'm going to leave you with just one or two thoughts, and then I'm happy to open it up to any questions. Most of the people that I engage with are a heck of a lot smarter than I am. I went back and got this very smart guy who said, in the midst of every crisis lies great opportunity. And while we are very focused on the tragedy and very focused on the challenges that come with the situation that we face, I can't help but as a leader look forward to what is the opportunity. Once you get your people to trust again, which is the foundational first step, I want you to talk to them about the hope of the future. I want you to paint them a vision of where you will go as a group, as a team. I want you to give them that direction on the horizon, and then make all the energy towards getting to that outcome. And then as a leader, you have a really, really important role that I know you're ready to step up to. If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. And so I would say again, care for your people first, make them feel safe, make them trust what's going on in your engagement with them, and then work to inspire them, work to have them dream more, work to have them become more despite our circumstances, okay? And you can have a very, very powerful impact on the outcome for all of this, for your businesses, for your teams, for your families. Last but not least, I just wanted to put resources out there, my company and me. First of all, you see my LinkedIn account. I would really ask all of you, connect with me on LinkedIn. It will take 2 seconds, and I would really encourage you and want to connect with you there. If you enjoyed the presentation, if you would find it useful, I'd be happy to share the slides with you. Email me directly at the email address there, and I'd be happy to share the slides with you. And then last but not least, you see my website. I like two-way conversation, not one-way. Unfortunately, this format is more one-way. If you would like to sit down and have just sort of an exploratory call around your situation, your business, the team that you are trying to lead, I would be thrilled to have that. Go onto my website, set up a half-hour call, and we can talk about what your leadership challenge is, how you can evolve through it, and make all the difference in terms of the success of your team. Kaylee, I'm going to stop there and just see what questions that you have. I know we're right at 12:30, but what questions came in the chat, or what questions do people have?
Let's see. Well, again, I'm going to open people to please leave questions and comments in the chat, and Ken will answer what he can. I'm going to put hard cutoff time just in case of 12:45, just to respect people's time, and just a couple announcements while we're waiting for questions to roll in. So thank you again, Ken, for this presentation. I really appreciate, like myself, the awareness about emotional intelligence now more than ever. That is so important. And just stay tuned on our Chamber YouTube page. We will be posting recordings of these presentations once they're edited on our YouTube page and on our website. Stay posted on our Facebook and LinkedIn pages for the Chamber to see the upcoming seminars. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. we have Representative Mikey Sherrill, Senator Bucco, and EDA's Tim Sullivan answering questions about the CARES Act at 10 a.m. And then at 12 p.m., we have From Worried to Wow, How to Deliver a Standout Seminar by Casey Carpenter. So please tune in for those. And again, thank you so much, Ken. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, absolutely. If anybody has any questions, put them in the chat box. I'm happy to stay on and address them. And, you know, again, if anyone wants to just stay on as well, happy to continue the dialogue with specifics that you might be interested in, or input or advice that you might like.
You know, I have a question just to get the ball rolling. So you spoke a lot about emotional intelligence. Like I said, I really enjoyed that. And you said talk with a coach about it if you're not sure, like, oh, I'm really good at coding, I'm really good at websites, but emotional intelligence, I'm not that great at. Do you know of any good online resources or possibly people that we could look to for that kind of guidance right now?
Yeah, I hate to be self-serving, but me.
Yes.
Kaylee. No, that's a great question. So as part of my coaching practice, I work with a lot of different individuals and work through various assessment tools. Some of them that I like, the Strengths Finder tool is really easy. It's simple. It's something that shines a light on, you know, what people are really gifted at, and gives them that boost, that initial boost of self-awareness of the first step that I talked about. And then there's various tools that I use, and I'm certified to provide assessment with people that are really easy, it's simple, and they don't take a lot of time. And importantly, it's really about understanding your own wiring and you know, how you engage with other people first. That could be done through conversation and sort of Q&A with a coach. And the tools actually supplement that learning. So oftentimes, whether it's a behavioral assessment or a motivation or an EQ assessment, those things are really become a tool to get to know the leader a little bit better, get to know how they're wired and how they engage with other people. And then we can sort of coach through, how does that come across to the audience that you're engaging with? How does the team around you receive you? And that's really where the most important coaching occurs.
Okay.
I can definitely think of other like online resources. Typically, I'm at the center of those, but if people are interested in that, certainly a conversation with me would be great. And then, again, some people are saying like, this is awesome. I want a longer term coaching relationship. Some are just like, hey, I would like a book to read, or I would like to go on a site where I can just find out more about myself. I'm happy to provide that direction if that's the path that people want to follow at this point.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Sure. Any questions from the group or others? That was great, Kaylee. Thanks for that one. All right, I'm not seeing anything coming through on the chat, Kaylee. Are you seeing anything, any questions on your side?
Doesn't look like it, so I think I guess we should wrap up, but this has been great.
Yeah, so I would just say, I wish you all the best. I'm so glad that you engaged in this, because it shows that you're interested in becoming a stronger leader, a greater leader. You realize that responsibility of learning around leadership and then wanting to deliver that, to some group, again, whether it be your business, your team at work, your family, the nonprofit that you belong to. And I commend you for that. If you would like to engage further and talk more about your specific situation, I'm thrilled and happy to do that. And then last but not least, you have the power to make a massive difference in this. And the lasting message that I would give you is seize that opportunity to really lead in this environment. We need it. Everyone needs it right now. We need the positive leadership that you can bring to this equation. Hopefully you've got some thoughts and ideas around that today. I wish you all well and look forward to seeing you again at the next chamber event. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ken. And everyone have a great day. I'll see you at the next seminar.
Okay. Thanks, Kaylee.